Zara stepped out of the taxi, her suitcase heavy in her hand, as the grand gates of the mansion swung open. The Seoul skyline loomed in the distance, but here in the hills, the estate felt like a world apart. Sleek, modern architecture, blended with traditional Korean elements, surrounded by manicured gardens. At 28, with her warm brown skin glowing under the afternoon sun, curly hair tied back in a practical bun, and hazel eyes scanning the opulence, Zara wondered if this job was a mistake. She'd fled a toxic relationship in New York, using her savings to relocate to South Korea, drawn by distant family ties on her mother's European side. But cleaning for the ultra-wealthy? It was a means to an end. A stern butler, Mr. Kim, greeted her at the door. "Miss Zara Evans? Welcome. Master Lee expects efficiency and discretion." He led her through marble halls adorned with priceless art, her footsteps echoing softly. In the study, Lee Jae-hyun sat behind a massive oak desk, reviewing documents. At 35, he was the epitome of controlled power. Sharp jawline, dark hair styled impeccably, dressed in a tailored black suit that accentuated his athletic build. As head of the Lee family syndicate, he balanced legitimate tech investments with underground dealings, his reputation fierce yet calculated. He looked up as they entered, his piercing eyes locking onto Zara. "This is the new maid, sir," Mr. Kim announced. Zara offered a polite bow, as she'd practiced. "Hello, Mr. Lee. I'm grateful for the opportunity." Lee's gaze lingered, tracing her features, the curve of her lips, the confidence in her stance. Something stirred in him, an unfamiliar pull. Most staff blended into the background, but she stood out. "You'll handle my personal quarters," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "No mistakes." As she nodded and left to unpack, Lee leaned back, fingers tapping the desk. Why did her presence unsettle him? He dismissed it, but couldn't shake the urge to know more. That night, as Zara organized her small room, she felt eyes on her, though the house was silent. Little did she know, Lee's security feeds now included glimpses of her, his curiosity igniting into something deeper. Zara's first week blurred into a routine of dusting crystal chandeliers, polishing silver, and tending to the vast kitchens. The mansion was a fortress, with hidden rooms and guards patrolling discreetly. She learned quickly. Avoid the basement offices where Lee's business meetings occurred, and never question the late-night arrivals of suited men. Her mixed heritage drew occasional curious glances from the staff, but she brushed it off. Her appearance was just that, not a story. Lee, however, found himself distracted. During meals, he'd catch sight of her serving, her graceful movements captivating. One evening, as she cleared his dinner table, he spoke. "Where are you from, Zara?" "New York originally," she replied, keeping her tone professional. "Moved here for a change." He nodded, but his mind raced. Change from what? He had his team run a quiet background check. Nothing alarming, just a broken engagement and debts. It fueled his interest. "Stay out of the East Wing after dark," he warned, his eyes intense. "Yes, sir." She felt a shiver. His stare was possessive, like he was claiming territory. As days passed, Lee's obsession grew. He'd linger in hallways, watching her work, his thoughts consumed. Why her? She was efficient, yes, but her quiet resilience mirrored his own hidden vulnerabilities. One afternoon, finding a vase she'd arranged perfectly, he smiled, a rare sight. That night, a storm raged outside. Zara, unable to sleep, wandered to the library for a book. The door creaked open, revealing Jae-hyun by the window, whiskey in hand. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "The thunder," she admitted, stepping closer. Lightning illuminated his face, highlighting his sharp features. He set his glass down, approaching. "This house has seen worse storms," His hand brushed hers as he handed her a book. The touch lingered, electric. Zara's heart raced. His proximity was intoxicating. Back in his room, Lee Jae-hyun paced. He couldn't let this distraction fester. Yet, the next day, he assigned her to clean his suite personally. "I trust only you," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Zara nodded, unaware that his possessiveness was just beginning to unfold, wrapping around her like the shadows of the mansion. By the third week, the mansion's rhythm felt familiar to Zara, but Lee's presence loomed larger. He began requesting her for small tasks, preparing his morning coffee just the way he liked it, organizing his wardrobe with precision, folding his shirts exactly as he preferred. Each interaction carried an undercurrent of intensity. His eyes followed her movements, dark and unwavering, as though he were memorizing the way her curls escaped her bun, or how her hazel eyes caught the light. One morning, as she arranged his silk ties on the velvet-lined drawer, Lee entered without warning. Fresh from his private gym, he wore only black sweatpants that hung low on his hips, his chest and arms glistening faintly. The intricate tattoos that marked his Mafia heritage curling across his skin like dark promises. Zara's breath caught. She quickly looked back at the ties. "Sir?" she asked, voice steady despite the sudden heat in her cheeks. He stepped closer, the air between them thickening. "You've adapted well, Zara. Better than anyone I've hired." His fingers brushed her arm as he reached past her for a charcoal tie, the contact deliberate and lingering. Electricity raced across her skin. "Thank you," she managed, meeting his gaze. In his eyes, she saw hunger, raw, possessive, barely restrained. She looked away. That afternoon, during her short break in the garden, she chatted briefly with one of the younger gardeners about the blooming camellias. Lee watched from the floor-to-ceiling window of his office, jaw tightening. When she returned inside, he summoned her to the study. "Focus on your duties," he said, tone clipped. But when he saw the faint confusion in her expression, his voice softened. "I need you undistracted." Zara tilted her head slightly. "I was only talking about flowers, Mr. Lee." His lips curved, not quite a smile. "I know." As evening settled over the mansion, the tension became unbearable. Zara entered his study to return a stack of signed documents. Lee was alone, standing by the window with a glass of scotch in hand, the city lights glittering far below. "Is there anything else tonight?" she asked, setting the papers on his desk. He turned slowly, crossing the room in measured steps until he stood inches from her. "Why do you intrigue me so much?" His voice was low, almost a growl. One hand rose, cupping her chin with surprising gentleness, tilting her face up to his. His thumb brushed the edge of her lower lip. Zara's pulse thundered in her ears. I don't know," she whispered, but she didn't pull away. The pull between them was magnetic, undeniable. Lee's obsession surged. He wanted her attention, her time, her everything, solely for himself. Slowly, deliberately, he leaned in, giving her the chance to resist him. His lips brushed hers in a kiss that started tentative, testing, then deepened with quiet demand. Zara responded instinctively, her hands rising to rest against his chest, feeling the steady, powerful beat of his heart beneath her palms. The kiss stretched, grew hungrier. His free arm slid around her waist, pulling her flush against him. When they finally parted, Both were breathing hard. "This can't happen," Zara murmured, though her fingers still clutched the fabric of his shirt. "It already has," Lee replied, eyes unyielding. From that moment, his possessiveness showed itself in small, deliberate ways. A delicate silk scarf left folded on her pillow with no note, just the faint scent of his cologne clinging to it. Quiet excuses to have her near him throughout the day, as though he couldn't quite bear the distance. The way his gaze would darken and linger whenever another staff member stood too close to her. Not in anger, but in something raw and unguarded. Zara felt the invisible threads drawing tighter around her heart, equal parts thrilling and overwhelming. She was stepping deeper into his world, and Lee Jae-hyun was no longer the distant, untouchable boss. He was a man who looked at her like she was the only light he'd ever allowed himself to want, and he wasn't ready to let that light slip away. The kiss from the study replayed in Zara's mind endlessly. Soft at first, then demanding, leaving her lips tingling long after. Lee's possessiveness had shifted. It no longer felt like a cage, but like a shield he was learning to lower only for her. He sought her presence more openly now, asking her thoughts on rearranging the study shelves, or pausing in corridors to share a quiet observation about the garden blooms she'd tended. Each moment built slowly, deliberately, like embers waiting for wind. One stormy evening, thunder echoing through the hills, Zara found sleep impossible. She slipped downstairs to the library, hoping the crackle of the fireplace would calm her nerves. Lee was already there, silhouetted against the rain-streaked windows, a forgotten whiskey glass on the side table. He turned at her soft footsteps. "The storm keeping you up too?" She nodded, stepping closer. "It's louder here than anywhere I've lived." Lightning flashed, carving sharp shadows across his face. He set the glass aside and approached slowly, stopping just short of touching her. "I can't stop thinking about you, Zara. About that kiss. About what it means." Her heart thudded. "Neither can I." He reached out, fingertips grazing her cheek with feather-light care. "I don't want to rush you, but being near you, it's the only thing that quiets the noise in my head." Zara closed the remaining distance, her hand resting on his chest. She felt the rapid beat beneath her palm, matching her own. Their lips met, tentative at first, then deepening as his arms encircled her waist. The kiss stretched, grew heated. His hands slid up her back, possessive yet restrained, thumbs tracing slow circles that sent shivers through her. They moved to the plush rug by the fire, sinking down together. His shirt buttons yielded to her fingers one by one. She traced the ink on his skin, feeling him tense and then relax under her touch. His lips found her neck, trailing lower, murmuring against her collarbone. "You're safe with me. Always." The words vibrated through her, stoking the fire building between them. Clothes loosened further. Her sweater slipped away, his hands exploring with reverent slowness. Touches turned teasing, then urgent, fingers intertwining, breaths hitching as bodies pressed closer in the warm glow. They hovered on the edge, passion cresting in shared gasps and trembling holds. But they didn't fully cross, lingering instead in the exquisite tension, foreheads pressed together, hearts racing in sync. Afterward, wrapped in the throw blanket, Lee pulled her against him. "My world has shadows, men like Kang Min-soo who would exploit any weakness. I won't let them touch you." Zara nestled closer, fingers tracing his jaw. "I didn't expect this, but I'm not afraid of your shadows if I'm in them with you." He kissed her temples softly. "Then stay close, not because I demand it, because this feels like home." Days later, at a formal business dinner in the mansion, Kang arrived uninvited. His gaze slid over Zara as she served, lingering with calculated interest. In the kitchen afterward, Lee drew her gently aside, voice low. "Keep your distance from him. For me." The quiet vulnerability in his plea melted her. She rose on her toes, kissing him fiercely. "I'm yours, right here." The promise hung between them, electric, unbreakable, waiting for the right moment to ignite fully. With the storm's aftermath came a quiet shift in the mansion. Lee's possessiveness no longer felt like a shadow. It felt like devotion wrapped in velvet. He rearranged his days to carve out moments with Zara. Early mornings where he'd bring her coffee to the garden bench, or late evenings when he'd find her reading and pull her onto the couch beside him. His touches lingered longer now, fingers brushing her wrist, hands settling at the small of her back. Each one a silent claim softened by tenderness. One night, after a grueling meeting left him tense, Lee sought her in the library again. Zara was curled in an armchair, a book forgotten in her lap as she watched rain trace patterns on the window. He crossed the room without a word, knelt before her, and rested his forehead against her knee. "Rough day?" she asked softly, fingers threading through his dark hair. He exhaled. "Kang Min-soo is pushing boundaries, trying to undercut my legitimate deals. But right now, all I want is this. You." Zara slid to the floor, meeting him eye to eye. Their kiss started slow, a gentle reclaiming, then deepened as he pulled her closer. They moved to the rug, firelight dancing across their skin. His hands explored with deliberate care, tracing her collarbone, sliding down her sides, whispering against her ear, "You're the only thing that feels real in my world." Clothes fell away in unhurried layers. Zara's palms mapped the hard planes of his chest, feeling scars and ink that told stories he rarely shared. Lee's touches were possessive yet worshipful, gripping her hips, then softening to caress her thighs, drawing soft gasps that made his eyes darken with need. Their bodies aligned, moving together in a rhythm that built steadily. Slow rolls, shared breaths, the heat between them cresting in waves of quiet intensity. When release came, they held each other through the aftershocks, limbs tangled, hearts pounding in unison. Afterward, wrapped in the blanket, Lee traced lazy circles on her bare shoulder. "I've never let anyone this close. My parents were taken by rivals when I was young. Trust became a luxury I couldn't afford. Until you." Zara pressed a kiss to his jaw. "I'm not going anywhere." But the outside world refused to stay quiet. Kang escalated, leaking false rumors about Lee's tech firm to investors, aiming to erode his clean facade. Lee handled it discreetly, tightening security and confronting Kang via secure call. "You want war? You'll lose more than territory." Returning home, he found Zara waiting in his suite. She pulled him into an embrace without questions. That night, their connection deepened further. Slow, sensual rediscovery under silk sheets, his whispers of forever replacing old walls. As bonds solidified, Lee's obsession had become partnership. Zara, once seeking escape, now found belonging in his arms. Their love bridged worlds, interracial, intercultural, unbreakable. While shadows gathered just beyond the gates, Lee's devotion had sharpened into something razor-edged. Every glance at Zara carried quiet intensity. He positioned himself between her and the world, a living shield. He began accompanying her on small errands within the estate grounds, hand resting possessively at her lower back, eyes scanning for any shadow that didn't belong. "I won't apologize for wanting you safe," he'd murmur when she teased him about hovering. The words were soft, but the undercurrent was steel. The annual charity gala at the mansion tested that edge. Lee hosted to maintain his legitimate facade, the ballroom glittering with Seoul's elite. Zara attended, not as staff, but at his quiet insistence, dressed in a sleek emerald gown that hugged her curves, her curls swept up to reveal the graceful line of her neck. She looked breathtaking, and Lee couldn't hide how it affected him. Throughout the evening, his gaze tracked her, protective when a businessman lingered too long in conversation, possessive when another offered a dance she politely declined. In a shadowed alcove during a slow waltz, he pulled her close. "You drive me insane," he whispered, voice rough. His hand slid to her waist, thumb brushing bare skin where the gown dipped low. Their kiss was urgent, lips crashing, bodies pressing against cool marble. Heat flared fast, his fingers tangled in her hair, tilting her head to deepen the connection. Zara arched into him, hands gripping his tuxedo lapels, the distant music fading to nothing. They broke apart only when footsteps approached, breaths ragged. Lee's eyes burned. "Later," he promised, a single word heavy with intent. Kang Min-soo arrived uninvited, slipping past security with forged credentials. He cornered Lee near the bar, smile thin. "Impressive turnout. Though your new distraction seems to have you distracted. Careful, Jae-hyun. Weaknesses get exploited." Lee's jaw clenched. "Touch her, and I'll end you publicly. No shadows, no deniability." Kang laughed softly. "Still playing the honorable heir? Your uncle took my father. Now you're soft because of a maid." The jab landed, but Lee remained calm. "My uncle's sins aren't mine, but if you threaten what's mine, you'll learn exactly how far I'll go." Kang left with a parting smirk, but the encounter left Lee coiled tight. Later, in his private suite, he found Zara waiting. The door clicked shut. He crossed to her in 3 strides, cupping her face. "Did he speak to you?" His voice was low, edged with barely contained fury. "No, but your jealousy tonight." She searched his eyes. "It's overwhelming." He exhaled, vulnerability cracking through. "I fear losing you more than any rival. You're the first thing I've ever truly wanted. Not power, not control. Just you." Zara pulled him down for a slow, searing kiss. Clothes shed in the dim light, they fell onto silk sheets. His touches were reverent yet fierce, gripping her thighs, trailing fire across her skin, whispering mine like a vow. Passion built in waves, cresting together in shared release, bodies trembling in the quiet aftermath. As they lay entwined, his obsession softened into something deeper. "I trust you," he said against her hair, "and I'll fight smarter, for us." Their bond held firm on the edge, unbreakable, ready to face whatever storm came next. Kang Min-soo's patience snapped. He struck openly, no anonymous leaks this time. A targeted cyber breach hit Lee Jae-hyun's tech firm overnight, exposing encrypted transaction logs that hinted at old, buried syndicate ties. By morning, the damage was public enough to rattle investors. Kang followed with a direct message to Jae-hyun's secure line. "Your clean image cracks, heir. And that pretty distraction of yours? She'll be next if you don't step aside." Jae-hyun's face was stone as he read it aloud to Zara in his study. "He's claiming credit. No more games." Zara's stomach twisted. "Jae-hyun, let the authorities handle this. You don't have to." "I do," he cut in gently, cupping her face. "Not for pride, for us. If I let this slide, he'll keep coming, until he finds a way to hurt you to get to me." His thumb brushed her cheek, eyes fierce yet tender. "I won't allow it." He gathered his most trusted men that afternoon, laying out a plan in the basement office Zara had always avoided. No reckless violence, only precision. Evidence of Kang's own embezzlement from joint ventures, forged documents, and payoffs to officials would be delivered to prosecutors via untraceable channels. Jae-hyun would confront Kang personally to force a recorded confession and truce. Zara waited upstairs, pacing the library, every thunderclap outside mirroring her pulse. She replayed their nights together, his whispered vows, the way he held her like she was his anchor. Losing him wasn't an option. The confrontation happened at a neutral warehouse on the city's edge. Kang arrived flanked by enforcers, smirking. "You came alone? Bold. Or stupid?" Jae-hyun stood calm. "I came with proof. Your accounts, your bribes, your father's old debts you've been laundering. Sign the dissolution of your claims on my territory, or this goes to the authorities tonight." Kang laughed, then lunged, fists flying in a brief, brutal scuffle. Jae-hyun's training won out. He pinned Kang, phone recording every word. "End this now, or lose everything." Defeated, Kang signed under duress, voice shaking with rage. Hours later, the evidence packet landed with trusted contacts in law enforcement. Kang was arrested at dawn for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. No shadows, no loose ends. Jae-hyun returned home bruised, knuckles split. Zara met him at the door, pulling him into her arms without a word. She cleaned his wounds in silence, then kissed him softly. "I was so scared," she whispered. He held her tight. "It's over. I choose you over the fight, every time." That night, they came together slowly, urgently, hands mapping familiar skin, bodies moving in quiet relief. His touches were possessive yet gentle, whispers of, "I'm yours," replacing old commands. As they drifted off entwined, the storm outside finally broke into clear skies. No more rivals, no more shadows, only them. Kang Min-soo's fall was final. Arrested at dawn, his network unraveled by the evidence Jae-hyun had delivered. Fraud, laundering, conspiracy charges that stuck like glue. No shadows lingered, no loose threads. The mansion, once heavy with secrets, now breathed easy. Jae-hyun quietly dismantled the last dangerous pieces of his empire, channeling everything into legitimate tech and quiet philanthropy. He chose peace, not for show, but because Zara had shown him what real power looked like, choosing someone over everything else. One golden evening in late autumn, he found her in the garden she'd made her own. The camellias were blooming again, soft pink against the fading light. Zara was kneeling among them, hands dusted with soil, humming softly. Jae-hyun watched for a long moment, heart full in a way he'd never known before her. He walked over, knelt beside her, and gently took her dirty hands in his clean ones. "Zara," he said, voice low and sure. "I used to think forever was just surviving one more day. Then you arrived, and suddenly forever felt like something I could hold. I don't need ceremonies or rings or crowds to prove what's already true. I just need you to know. I love you. Completely. Irrevocably. Every possessive, protective, ridiculous part of me belongs to you now." Zara's hazel eyes shimmered. She laughed through sudden tears, squeezing his hands. "Jae-hyun, I love you too. The way you look at me like I'm the only thing that matters. The way you fight for us. The way you let me see the man behind the walls. I didn't come here looking for this, but I found home in you." He pulled her close, right there in the dirt and flowers, kissing her slow and deep, like sealing a promise that needed no officiant. When they parted, foreheads touching, he whispered, "No big event, no fuss, just us. But if you ever want something more, a quiet trip, a tattoo, a midnight promise under the stars, say the word. Until then, this is enough. You're enough." They stayed like that until the sky turned violet, then walked inside hand in hand. That night, in their shared bed, they came together with the same fierce tenderness that had carried them through every storm. Slow touches, whispered "I love yous" against skin, bodies moving like they'd always known each other. No rush, no end, just the quiet certainty of forever already begun. Months turned to years in gentle rhythm. Zara built her design work from the mansion's sunlit studio. Jae-hyun mentored startups, his sharp mind now a force for good. They traveled when they wanted, stayed in when they didn't. One day, a little girl with Zara's curls and Jae-hyun's serious eyes arrived. Soo-ah, their unexpected, perfect miracle. On quiet evenings, they'd sit on the balcony, Soo-ah asleep between them, watching the city lights. Jae-hyun would pull Zara close and murmur against her hair, "We did it." She'd smile, kiss his jaw. "We did, and we're still doing it." No grand declarations needed, just love, fierce, possessive, soft, eternal, wrapped around them like the warmest blanket. Their story ended here, complete, cute, theirs alone.